All right, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us again on another edition of Google Plus Hangout for Channels B. Today, we're looking at Nigeria's independence. As you all know, tomorrow is October 1st. Nigeria will turn 57. That's 7 years after it gained independence from the British colonialists. But then we will be looking at how far we have come so far. And joining us today is Dr. Awojide joined us from the UK. Thanks for coming, Dipo.
You're welcome, Victor.
Of course. And we also have Olumuyiwa Mao, who joins us from Dunedin in New Zealand as well.
You're welcome. It's always good to be here.
Of course. So let's just get you to kickstart this conversation. Let me start by asking, how far so far have we come after 7 years?
Well, people who are pessimists by nature would argue that it's been a sad story over the last 57 years, particularly when you situate the fact that as a 57-year-old man or woman, you should have your foot firmly on ground. You should have your foundation well established. Your foundation, which should be your substructure, should be solid, and there should be a superstructure on that foundation. So for a 57-year-old kid, you would think that you should have done much better than you have done now. And then for a 7-year-old adult also, when you situate Nigeria within the confines of a human being, you will think we should be better off. So pessimists will argue that if at 57, we're still grappling with issues about restructuring, about bad leadership, about bad governance, about poverty, and about corruption, and about Nigerians not being proud to call their country their own, then we have not done well. That's how pessimists would argue. But incredible optimists like Hawes would argue that every nation has its own problems. At 57, yes, we might have had our shortcomings as a nation, but it's not been a sad story. 57 years after, 36 states, one federal capital, millions and millions of people, established Nigerians all over the world. The name is flying everywhere positively. There are a few bad eggs amongst us as a people, but overall, optimists would argue that there's something to be happy about. But again, when you now compartmentalize how far we've gone as a nation within the normal yardstick, you should compartmentalize it, then there is going to be a very serious cause for concern. You look at our health sector 57 years after, our educational sector 57 years after, infrastructure and all the other things that should make life moderately meaningful for Nigerians 57 years after, then you begin to see the sad story that pessimists will talk about. So depending on how you want us to look at it, I think that overall, we have not done extremely well as we should have, but are there signs that things can get better? Yes. My only fear is, for how long would we continue to talk about the signs of things getting better if we're talking about that at 57? We shouldn't be talking about things getting better. We should be talking about improving on things that are already better. So I think that what problems we have had as a nation isn't because Nigeria cannot survive as a nation. It is because we have been unfortunate to have bad leaders who never really believed in the project called Nigeria after the Civil War. And that's what has dragged us to where we are now. But as a Nigerian and as an optimist, I can only continue to hope and believe that things can and will get better, provided we can get our leadership right. But when we're going to get our leadership right is what I don't know, if we haven't gotten it. But I would say that, am I proud to be a Nigerian today? Yes. Am I proud to associate myself with the country? Yes. Do I think that things have a chance of improving much better than they are now? Yes. But whether that will become a reality is another question entirely. So on a scale of 1 to 5, if I were to score Nigeria 57 years after, maybe 2.8. So it's really neither here nor there. Slightly above average, but so much to be disappointed about, yet so much to be happy about.
So are you does that mean the pessimists have a cause to be pessimistic? Because if you will rate Nigeria 2.8.
Yeah, I mean, well, give it to them. pessimists have a right to be negative as they have been, but a 2.8 is a fair score. So a pessimist would hope for something less than 2.5. So I would not say that we have failed totally. I will only say that in the most important sectors of our nationhood, we haven't done exactly the way we should. But are there structures that can make us better? Yes. So, and that explains my 2.8 over 5. Look, I'm incredibly optimistic that this is a country that can really attain and achieve its potentials. But I'm just saddened that our leaders do not seem to understand that, and that's why I was called a 2.8 over 5.
All right, very well. We'll come back to you in a bit. But Dipo, let's also get to hear from you. Olumiwa is saying that he will give Nigeria perhaps 2.8, but then he also went ahead to list some of the myriad of challenges that Nigeria is facing at 57, which, again, by his own admission, we could have done better. We should have been celebrating, or we should have been improving on the better things that we have, but we are still saying things will get better. Do you agree with him, or do you have a different view about where we are at the moment?
I agree with some of the things that Olumuyiwa have said, and I also disagree with some of the things he has said. 10-year-old man, let's assume, you know, people like myself and yourself at 57, you know, you've been to the university or you've been to the polytechnic, you have 1 or 2 degrees, you get, you know, start off a career at 25, 27 or 30. At 57, you should, you know, be somewhere a little above, you know, the mid managerial role. I mean, I'm just rough figures of, you know, say public service or private enterprises. Thinking about how far Nigeria has come from 1960, of course, we have come a long way. Of course, a lot has been done, and we can't actually condemn the efforts of those who have built Nigeria and those who have, you know, sustained Nigeria to where Nigeria is at this moment. But in my own opinion, I don't think Nigeria deserves a 2.8 over 5. I think Nigeria deserves perhaps a 1.8 or a 2.0 over 5, because looking at all the critical sectors of the country, things are almost a sad situation. Okay, look at the education sector. Quite a lot of our graduates are not employable, and when we say this, people get angry, but the truth is the truth. Unfortunately, the health sector is almost nothing to write home about. Quite a lot of rich people, they know this, treat themselves in Nigeria. That's why they don't gamble with their lives in Nigeria. They go elsewhere. They go to Germany, England, the UK, Canada. Some even go to, you know, Cyprus and Malaysia to treat themselves, even Egypt. Okay, so if the children of the rich study abroad, you know, everything, the country works. The country works. Nigeria works, but it works for only about 5 or 7% of the population. Those who are in the upper class, those are the people who the country works for. Those are the people who can travel out and get the best education across the world. Those are the people who can travel out and get the best medical care in the world. The majority of the people in Nigeria, they are living in poverty. Okay, the middle class is shrinking on a daily basis. Some of my friends even argue that there's no middle class in Nigeria anymore. It's just that 5-7% who are very rich, and people who don't have, you know, food, good water, electricity. I mean, I know this week there was an issue with electricity, and I think almost everywhere across the country there was blackout for, I think, a couple of minutes or a couple of hours. I'm not sure about the details now, but it goes a long way to show that we could have done much better. We definitely, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of healthcare, in terms of education, in terms of security, in terms of job creation. Come on, countries that were not that are not as old as Nigeria, country not better off than Nigeria. A couple of years ago, the export to the rest of the world. Nigeria imports all sorts of things from the rest of the world. I mean, Singapore is an example, Malaysia is an example, Taiwan is an example, even Ghana. Ghana now takes thousands of Nigerian students actually end up in Ghana because our universities still go on strike on a yearly basis. It is now like an annual festival where ASU goes on strike, SANU goes on strike. You know, some universities go on strike. One university that I wouldn't want to call the name was on strike for more than 1 year, if last year up till this year, which is a big embarrassment on all of us. We definitely should have advanced further than where we are. We definitely should have done more. And why are we where we are? We are where we are due to bad leadership. We are where we are as a nation due to, you know, visionless leadership. Okay, most of our leaders only care about their section of the country. Some of them only care about their own pocket and about their friends. Okay, so it is a sad situation, but of course I agree with Muyiwa that we have to be hopeful. We have to, you know, and hope is not a strategy. We have to put in the work. We have to continue criticizing until things get better, and we have to put in our effort as well in building this country that we call our own.
All right, so now let's talk about being optimistic. As this is one of the areas where you share the same views with Muyiwa. If you want to be optimistic, so to speak, now there should be parameters. There should be, like they say, there's a Hausa proverb which I will just say in English. It says, if you will know a good Monday from a Friday. You get, so are we saying that Good Friday before we get to Monday? Okay, I think we were trying to respond. Hold on a bit. Sorry, Muyiwa, can you come again?
Yeah, okay. The problem with Nigeria isn't something that started today. It didn't start yesterday either. It started the day before yesterday in 1914, when Flora Shaw, who was a concubine to Lord Lugard, and was visibly half drunk, overlooking the River Niger, decided that Nigeria should be called Niger Area. I felt that was where we had our problem. I mean, people define a nation as a people with a common history, common culture, common tradition, if possible, common religion, common identity, all those essential features of what makes a state a nation, or what makes nationhood. Nigeria lacks. So I said the day before yesterday, because in 1914, when that when those northern and southern protectorates were going to be amalgamated, it was done out of very selfish and personal interest, and it was done in the most ridiculous fashion by a Flora Shaw who was enjoying some wine with Lord Lugard, and decided to just amalgamate people who were not related. I mean, along the lines that analyzed together, and we didn't have any prior discussion before then. And I felt that's what we got it wrong as a nation. And we haven't really recovered from that, because the marriage of inconvenience was patched up until 1960, when we had our independence. And then we had our first generation leaders who had some bit of patriotism in them, most buoyed by the fact that there were so many decolonization struggles going on, and they had that sense of unity. But it collapsed again in 1966 when that coup took place. And we never recovered from that point. So if we're going to be tracing why we are where we are now, it's because fundamentally this was not supposed to be called a nation, but it has been called a nation. So the next thing to do is, how do we fix it? How do we continue to patch it up or fix it? In 1966 up to 1975, when Gowon left, very little was achieved in terms of national cohesion. Of course, we were just recovering from a civil war, and attempts were made to lay a foundation. Muritala Obasanjo tried to do something meaningful, and again, it was short-lived. And then Shagari came, and then the problem of tribalism set in again. It was then a case of from the north, you're from the south, and things went back to square one. And we never recovered from 1979 up to where we are now. And even up to this present leadership, things haven't really taken the shape it should take, in terms of our leaders believing that this is a national project as against a regional or a state project, as events over the last 35 years from 1979 has shown. So how are we going to get what we dream of as a nation is left to be seen, if we continue to see ourselves not as Nigerians, but as people from a certain part of the country. So Dr. Dipo mentioned the fact that we have had very unfortunate leaders, but that is why we are where we are. It is because our leaders haven't seen us as a people. They have rather seen us as a northerners, an Hausa man, a Fulani man, a Yoruba man, an Igbo man, as against us being seen as a Nigerian. And that's why pessimists will always argue that there isn't any hope for this country. But what are the signs that there could be hope for this country, considering where we are now? It's because for the first time in so many years, even though unfortunately this present leadership seems to be backpedaling on some of the promises it has made, at least gives you that sense of belief that the man who is at the helm of affairs may be a bit sentimental when it comes to issues concerning the people from where he comes from. But there's that sense of focus in terms of leadership and in terms of him believing that the Nigerian project can be well enhanced and things can get better. He's got his own faults, but I'm tempted to believe that, look, depending on what continuity comes into play when he leaves, I'm tempted to believe that we're slightly better than we were when we had the former leadership in terms of the national or the Nigerian project. So that's slight ray of hope that I'm seeing, but that's the kind of hope that can be dimmed by just one incident. So it's not really promising. It's not something that we can really look forward to and say this is a positive drive we should hold on to, and this can take us to our destination. We're just seeing tiny rays of hope from left, right, center. We need someone in terms of a leader to put together these rays of hope that we're seeing and make it a national project so that the people can have faith in that country again. If you ask for my personal opinion, I do not think Nigeria will survive for another 100 years, for example. I think that our generation must have left or must have done. At some point, people would sit down to renegotiate whether they should continue to remain as one. In the final analysis, I think that would happen. Whether it will happen in my lifetime, I don't know. But this is certainly not the way we need or would continue to go moving forward. So am I seeing anything positive in this country? I am a little bit, but it's not, again, encouraging. I'm tempted to call it negative at this stage, but because we're still existing as a country and because it's 57 years and we can still celebrate Nigeria, we can only hope. But hope in itself is not work. You have to put hard work into your hope for it to become a reality.
All right.
Again, as I mentioned, things can get better if the leadership thinks the way we are thinking as ordinary Nigerians.
All right, so so let's just continue from where he's landing, because it was just the same thing I was asking you earlier on. Talking about if there is hope, like I was saying, a good Monday from a good Friday, according to the House of Proverb. So thankfully he landed on that note, talking about hope. Do you see any way of hope for Nigeria getting better than it is at the moment?
Yes, I see. I'm a very optimistic person, and even in very, very, very bad situations, bad situations can be turned around into a good situation, into positive situation. So I'm not going to say there's no hope for Nigeria. Of course, there's hope for Nigeria. Nigeria has a future, but that future is one that we have to. Our leaders have to come together and agree that we actually want this country to work. Okay, and just like Olumuyiwa rightly said, there's still that element of tribalism, element of sectionalism in the country, where people see themselves as Yoruba, as Igbo, as Hausa, as Fulani, as an Ijaw man or as an Ikwere man, or someone as a Steve Idoma and all of that, as a Benin man, So everyone needs to come together. I know we can't actually not talk about the current IPOB Nnamdi Kanu issue, demanding for restructuring, demanding for the breakaway of the Biafra Republic. We can't actually, not comment on all of these issues, because such issues will continue to arise if Nigeria continues to be badly governed. Okay, so Nnamdi Kanu did not just wake up and have 1 million or 2 million supporters. He has a lot of supporters, unfortunately, and it is due to the bad governance. It is due to the fact that young people, they are almost hopeless. There are no jobs, there are no trades, there's nothing to do. Boko Haram, the same thing. We know some of those people are educated, but majority of them is because they have nothing else to do. It's because of poverty. I mean, the government is not there to help. The government has not contributed anything to their lives, and they decide to go the other way. So, I mean, thinking about the education sector, thinking about the health sector, thinking about, you know, power sector, electricity generation, and all of that, Nigeria. But we need to get things right. We need, you know, competent people in positions of leadership. Okay, so some ministers, for example, I mean, I'm not going to mention anyone's name, but we know some ministers are not, they are not deserving of their positions. They were elected based on, you know, friends of the president, or based on, oh, this person helped us in winning a particular state during the elections. I know, of course, with politics, when you win an election, you get spoils of office, and you share that amongst loyalists. But what I would hope is that it is competent loyalists that actually get such positions, that it is people who can actually do the job, not misfits. So in certain ministries, in certain parastatals, we have people who are not competent, people who have no experience of running such ministries or such government departments. Those people continue to head important agencies. And if that continues, I'm sorry, the country is not going anywhere. If nepotism continues in Nigeria, I mean, from 2015 to 2017, we've had cases of nepotism in the DSS, we've had the CBN, we've had FIRS, and perhaps in other ministries and other sectors of you know, government establishment. So nepotism, the nepotism we had in 2010, 2015 is not any different from the nepotism that we have today in the country. The education sector today is not any different from what we had under Goodluck Jonathan. Okay, and we had that opportunity in 2015 to reset this country for good. Unfortunately, I don't think that has been done in most of the sectors. Of course, the APC and the Buhari administration can, you know, and be happy that they've made some progress, but in most of the important sectors, education, healthcare, infrastructure, job creation, nothing much has been done. Under this administration, one of the key success stories has been the Empower project. I mean, over 200,000, I guess 300,000 young people have been employed. They pay them 30,000 naira. It's not a lot of money, but it is something, okay? I read stories of people on Twitter, on Facebook, and these young people and their families are happy, okay? So some of us can actually say, oh, 30,000 is not a lot of money, but of course, it solves the problem of some of these people. So if we try as much as possible as a nation to fight corruption, not based on political affiliation, not based on tribal or religious affiliations, if we squarely fight corruption in all quarters, if we eschew nepotism, if we eschew tribal and religious bigotry, and treat everybody as equal in the eyes of the law and in the eyes of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, then the hope that we are open for a better country, open for a better future for our kids in that nation will definitely come to pass. But if we continue with nepotism and corruption and continue the sycophancy and hypocrisy, I'm sorry, we are not going anywhere positive.
All right, so let's just look at those comments again from those watching online. Shagun says, I'm proud to be a Nigerian, but Nigeria is a failed nation. Our major problem is religion, tribe, and greedy leaders. Susan O says, yes, you're right. 1.5 can go. I guess she was talking about the rating Deepa was given earlier on. And then Gabriel Agu says, yes, Ghana. I think he was also alluding to the fact that you're talking about Ghanaians, or Ghana having taken so many of Nigerians in terms of coming to study. Samuel Uluwadari says, to be honest, Nigeria is yet to wake up, talk less of moving. Maybe a revolution is going to be the answer, but he doesn't specify which kind of revolution. And then Gabriel Agui again says, southeast, southwest, West Midwest wants restructuring just for one reason. And then he says, why is the North not interested in restructuring Nigeria? So, coming back, just in wrapping up now, do you think a revolution is needed, and what kind of revolution is yes?
Well, people talk about revolution as if it were a child's play. It's not a child's play. It's not something you just wake up and then you decide to do. It's a mass movement-oriented action. Nigerians are far too complacent to succumb to a revolution at this point. The critical mass needed to push for a revolution aren't anywhere there yet. So I wouldn't think that there will be a revolution anytime soon. I mean, considering all that is going on in the polity, if you want to see nations who have gotten so close or gone so close to revolution, virtually all sectors or all segments of the society would be yearning for it. Now, Nigeria is compartmentalized into at least three major ethnic tribes: the Hausa with 19, the North with 19 states. Then the people from the South divided into a further two, the Southeast and the Southwest, and maybe South-South 3 now. I said the North because virtually almost everyone in the 19 northern states can at least understand a bit of Hausa, compared to what we have in the South, where you have all fragments of identity flying around. People from the Southwest aren't ready for a revolution. They are very okay with what they have, so it seems. Maybe you have people from the Southeast. I'm thinking that we need to go our way because someone is there to galvanize those thoughts together, and they have someone they could look at or look up towards as a leader. In the South, it's not a revolution. It's more of an economic revolution. People struggling to get licenses to lift oil and then get their own fair share of protecting the pipelines, and then they'll keep quiet. I mean, but in the North, again, they are firmly opposed to any form of restructuring because the general thinking is that once you restructure, all the good things they're holding on to in code won't be there anymore. So you don't have that collective opinion or aggregate of consensus from all these sectors that make up this country yearning for that. You only have a few bites from one particular geopolitical zone asking to be let go. So it's not anything that will happen soon because Nigerians aren't ready for it yet. But do I think there can be a major revolution from our leadership? Yes. And must there be a major revolution from the leadership we have? Yes. I mean, the political revolution we talk about is the one that has to be fought with blood and water and guns and barrels. But the original leadership revolution doesn't have to be fought with any bullet. It's revolution that has to come through process of thought. I mean, clarity of leadership, focus. That's what we're lacking, and that's why I think we should have a revolution. And that revolution should start from the youths who should mobilize and get their thoughts together and process their thoughts, arrive at a consensus, look at any credible leader that can make sense for them. I mean, have their priority at heart and push through their agenda. And that's what we don't have. I admit that our forefathers have failed us because I'm not so sure they've done a whole lot for Nigeria in terms of what we're seeing now. But we are also failing ourselves now as youths because we don't seem to have our priorities together. We can't even keep our hearts together. So I don't see any major change happening in Nigeria except if that critical mass, which has to be youth-inspired and youth-led, takes place. That, unfortunately, is not the case because the people who led us before now have found their way down to that sector, that segment of society. And unfortunately, the future is quite gloomy, if you ask me, in terms of any revolution, whether political leadership-wise or whether a major revolution as political scientists would define it. We're neither here nor there as a nation. The only thing that continues to sustain us is because our people just don't have another name to call themselves other than Nigerians. So it's not a good future moving forward, but hopefully, as I had mentioned earlier, it will get better once our leaders decide to do the right thing.
All right, very well. Let me also ask you, do you think restructuring is the way forward?
Yes, I do. I do support those clamoring for restructuring of Nigeria. I believe strongly that 36 states, more than half of the 36 states, are not pulling their weight. Half of the states are not pulling their weight because there are no consequences. You can, not contribute anything to the pot, and at the end of the month, you get a certain percentage from the federal government. So it is more or less. I mean, the way Nigeria is set up for money sharing. That's the simple truth. It's just, it's just rents. We just share money and go to our state, and state governors should actually think about, but not all of them. All of them should be thinking about how to make the pie bigger. So how to be innovative in generating funds and sustaining themselves. So if we get to that stage where, say, every state, for example, controls its own resources, or we go back to regionalism where every region holds, responsible for the resources that they generate and spend in that region, it might make more sense. And there's this a lot of people have actually spoken on restructuring, and what I don't like to see is calling the people agitating for demanding restructuring, calling them all sorts of names and abuses. That trick is not going to work. The country is not working as smoothly and as efficiently as it should. And if restructuring if people actually think, and I do think as well, that restructuring is a way forward, I think, of course, that the federal government has to consider it. I mean, not the way Nnamdi Kanu is going about it, asking for guns and weapons and promising to tear the country down. Of course, through debates, using very progressive means in achieving political aims, not using violence, or terrorism. We can actually get the country where we want by negotiating with ourselves. I've read one or two statements in the course of the year as well, where it's been said that the unity of the country is not negotiable. Of course, it is negotiable, because take a look, think about it carefully. We are currently negotiating, or we're currently in under this administration, we have negotiated with Niger Delta militants, haven't we? 2007, 2008, we've been paying militants. So it means there's a sort of negotiation going on for there to be peace. Okay, so I agree definitely that restructuring might be the way forward for this country, but we have to be careful of how we go about demanding for what exactly it is that we are asking for, and saying some demanding for revolution. Like was rightly said, the revolution that we need is a revolution in the minds of young people, is a revolution in the minds and the hearts of our leaders. We need a change in the mentality of most Nigerians, and we need the federal and state governments to focus importantly on education, because when you educate a critical mass of the people, when the people are educated, they make demands, they demand for better governance, they demand for better services. Some have actually said, not investing in education or not investing in our schools and universities is a weapon in itself. And I agree, it's a political weapon to keep the people in poverty, to continue dominating the people and handing over, when these men and women, when they are 60 and 70, they hand over to their kids, they hand over to, the next person. If we give every Nigerian child basic education and we improve our universities, people will be more aware, people will be more conscious of what good governance is. People would demand better. People would, we would actually, all the hope and all the things we're actually hoping about. Singapore didn't hope for such a long time. Malaysia did not hope for such a long time. They actually went in, their leaders actually went in there and put in the hard work. So we need to invest, and I've always said this, importantly in education, not in a bloody revolution as such. It is the revolution of the system, revolution of the education sector, revolution of the health sector, revolution of the power sector. Someone actually tweeted something yesterday. I think it was I can't remember his name now. Said about the power sector that so much billions has been spent since 1999. And I said, of course, billions has been allocated. Perhaps more than 50% of the billions allocated did not make it to any project. Perhaps somewhere, diverted via contract splitting, others via dubious contracts, others just ended up in the pocket of ministers or pocket of government officials. And this is the sort of revolution we need. We need to have quality leaders, competent leaders, heading important parts of the important sectors of the country. And also Nigerians, we need to have a common goal, okay? A common goal, a common, everyone thinking about the prosperity of the country, everyone thinking about the progress of the country, not just who becomes president, not just, where does the president come from or where does the minister come from? And is he my brother? Do we speak the same language? Are we the same religion? If we continue, selecting people based on, or, supporting a government or disapproving a government based on where they come from, then Nigeria is going to remain where it is. I wish everyone a very happy celebration as we celebrate our 57th anniversary. The future is bright, but of course we have to work for the sort of future that we want.
All right. Thank you very much. I think we should be wrapping this conversation up at the moment. Even though I would have loved to take some more of the comments, but then Dikwa actually told us the way forward earlier on in one of his remarks. But meanwhile, let's also get your own way forward in just a few seconds before we wrap up. Well,
for me, as I reiterated, there's a need for us as a people to believe in this project called Nigeria. Our leaders must be sincere to themselves in terms of what kind of a nation they want to continue to preside over. The followers must be alive to their responsibilities and demand that their leaders lead them aright. And as citizens, we can be where we want to be if we do really believe we want to be at that exact place our mind wants to. We wouldn't get to the Nigeria of our dream if we continue to think that this country is messed up. There's some form of positivity that needs to set in across board. If we have that positive attitude, the can-do spirit of a Nigerian is not in doubt. Nigerians are capable people over the world. They have proven time and time again how powerful their thinking is and how well they have invented themselves. What is lacking is that belief, that national cohesion, that sense of unity, that sense of pride, that sense of nationhood that we lacked when we amalgamated. Hopefully we can get it back. Once we're able to get that back, I believe that this country in the next 20, 30 years may really be on its path to progress and prosperity. If we can't get that right, if the people can't believe that this is their country and they need to die and fight and die for that country, we won't get it right. So it boils down to everyone who calls him or herself a Nigerian to believe in that, in this country, and do that which you can be proud of as a Nigerian and as a member of this beautiful country. It's been 57 years of a mixed bag of stories, but I look forward to another 57 years filled with so much positivity and filled with little or no negativity, if you like. But that can only happen if there's that national cohesion that we're lacking at the moment across board.
Well, I hope we're all alive in the next 57 years to see how all of that would go. But then thank you very much for joining us today on the program, Olumiwa Mao, as well as Dikwa Wojide. For those of you who also contributed via the YouTube stream, thank you for watching. Those of you who also showed interest in wanting to join, thanks for your interest as well. But then it has to be next time. For now, we have to wrap the conversation on this note. And again, it is a Google Plus Hangout for Channels Beam and Victor Matthias.